Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the official trailer that came out for Spider-Man No Way Home. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. This is an amazing trailer. It gets you super hyped for a movie generally, I think everyone has already been super hyped for, but obviously getting a little more context. I thought it was so interesting too because they made sure not to show you too much from what we already saw in the teaser trailer, and even when we did, now we have more context to a lot of stuff. So first and foremost, I love that line where Peter was talking about the fact is like, yeah, like ever since I got bit by the spider, the only time I've ever felt normal was the one normal week in my entire life was the day you found out. Because I think it is that thing of like, right, this is the first person he's ever gotten as close to that he cares about in this way that he's been able to open up to about, like, cause like the whole Liz situation before, like he could never tell her the truth. So now it's a situation, cause like, I mean, to be fair, when you think about everything Peter's going through, it's like, cool, I went through doing my Spider-Man thing naturally, then I went through Civil War, then I went through Homecoming, and then I went through Infinity War / Endgame, and then Far From Home, and now this, you know, especially in a time when everything is spiraling around him. People know that he's Spider-Man, and obviously he wanted to rewrite everything so that he could keep what he's got, while also, you know, because I want people to forget, but I don't want MJ or Ned or my Aunt May to forget. Like, I need them to remember, because them knowing all sides of me, like having to hide that from the people I care about, is like, that's the tough job of, you know, superheroing, especially because it's like he's one of the only heroes in the MCU who really struggles with that, and you know, and I love that they kept that dynamic for him, because like everyone else's identities are out and about, but his has the biggest consequence of what that means, and that plays a big part in this story, you know. But obviously learning, because of what he did messing with the spell, people are coming through, villains are coming through. And I love the Otto Octavius thing of like, he's like, oh hey Peter, but then he sees Tom Holland's face, he's like, wait, you're not Peter. He just saw a Spider-Man suit, he's like, oh I know who you are, you're Peter. But it's like, wait, you're not my Peter. I even love they're making fun of his name. He's like, Otto Octavius. He's like, no, seriously, what's your real name? Because, you know, I think it's kind of a little bit of a probably callback a little bit to the whole situation with Doctor Strange. It's like, oh yeah, he's like, oh, I'm Doctor Strange. He's like, oh, so we're going by superhero names. I think it's kind of like that in that vein, because they're making fun of him for it. But I love the notion of it being like, no, you're going to be facing off against Ghost. And he's like, wait, what are you talking about? What does he mean? And he talks to Doctor Strange about it. And it's like, each one of these villains that are coming out, they're ghosts. They're people that died fighting Spider-Man. He's like, I'm sorry, this is the way it has to be. And Peter's like, I'm sorry too. So there's a little bit of a disagreement about how they handle this, because Peter doesn't want to send these people. I think for Peter, it's like, I want to stop them, sure, but I don't want to send them back to a universe where they're just going to die. Especially knowing, like, maybe on some level, like, wait, there's an alternate universe where, like, different versions of me as Spider-Man is killing, like, not directly, but indirectly responsible for some of these people's death. Because we are focusing on villains that are, I mean, definitely in Octavius's case, in Green Goblin's case. We saw Sandman, we saw Lizard, but he's not dead, I don't think, in that continuity. He's still alive. But maybe some of those kind of borderline, because it's been a while since I saw Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't remember if Jamie Foxx's Electro died. To be fair, this is a different Electro from that, so it's like a an Electro from a different universe. So, but because that's the thing, like, are these the Otto Octavius or Willem Dafoe from the universes we know? Like, so it's like, oh, that's them from the Sam Raimi verse of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, or are they like from a parallel universe that's similar to that? It's not, you know, even if like Tobey Maguire is the Spider-Man of their respective universe, that it's not, you know, I mean, is that Goblin and Otto Octavius the same ones? I would assume, because of the whole ghost angle, that they would be the same ones from the same universes, because they, you know, apparently both died. So I think that's so interesting, though, for Peter to be like, right, he's trying to have everything, because it's like, no, I'm not going to send these people back, like, if they're fated to die, but it's like, no, like, if I'm in an opportunity, I can stop them, and maybe I can make it so they don't have to die. It seems like what they're kind of getting at, and that's an even heavier responsibility, because he doesn't want anyone to die. You know, I think it's also because, like, I mean, well, Mysterio, died, because once again, we don't know what's up with that, but it's like, that was his fault, but still, like, maybe that's what's carrying that on inside of him. I'm like, right, like, I already feel responsible for killing one of my villains. I don't want to make that mistake again. You know, there's already been like so much death. Like, I don't want to add more to it by sending him back. But Doctor Strange's like, you can't let them stay here. That's going to cause more, probably like ripples across the multiverse and cause more issues the longer they stay here. So you need to remove them. And I think it's so interesting. This is a DC reference. I'm usually doing it the other way around. But it almost seems like they're making Otto play almost like a Calendar Man-esque role of like, oh, like I'm behind the glass, but I'm the one giving you information about stuff that maybe Doctor Strange isn't opening up to you about all that's really going on. So I think that presents an interesting element if Otto kind of plays that role. I mean, to be fair, he's always played that mentor role for Peter in the first place. So almost doing that for another Peter is actually kind of interesting, kind of letting him know about like what's going on. But like I said, like you see Peter facing off against essentially a multiversal built Sinister Six. Each one is here for their own reasons, but this is, you know, maybe they find out about their fate. And I love that line from Norman Osborn of like, right, you try to fight against the darkness where you're trying to like have everything while everyone else is making you choose. I'm like, dude, that's such a bone-chilling line. I love that. And just the context of like, right, you want it, or you're trying to fix everything, you're trying to save everyone. That's the problem. Like you want to have everything, and when in your pursuit to have everything, you might walk away with nothing. You may have to pay like you don't get away from this for free. Like doing all this, like even if you try to fix it, like things are going to get worse because you're trying to have everything. Even if at one point we see near the end of the trailer, like he's jumping down to save MJ, which are like, yo, we've been down this situation before. And this, I mean, because that's always like the thing in the comics was like, that was the difference between the Gwen Stacy and the MJ thing. He accidentally killed Gwen, but he learned from his mistake and saved MJ without her dying. So that's the thing. I'm like, do you think they're going to kill MJ? I hope not. That'd be heartbreaking. But some storylines in all things that are Spider-Man can be heartbreaking. I mean, Gwen Stacy's death is heartbreaking. So, especially because they did that with Amazing Spider-Man 2, so to kind of parallel that in this moment too, in particular, like he's facing off against multiple villains, like the toughest foes he has ever been up against, because he's got villains who hate his guts all from different universes. I wonder, are these characters right at the end of their lives, or is it a little bit before? Like, what exact moment were they plucked from, you know? Because that's also a thing too. If they're being missing from their dimensions, that's going to cause issues in the like dimensions that they're from. But at the end, like Strange is like, I can't hold it back anymore, and like they're coming through. So is that where we're going to get like even more Spider-Man villains? Potentially our other two Spider-Man coming into play. Like it's definitely going to be interesting to see like who may pop in. May not just be like, what other like cameo appearances we were gonna get. We did see this world's J. Jonah Jameson like on the scene at one point in time, probably reporting like, oh, look at that menace Spider-Man like doing his thing, or Peter Parker doing his thing. So I think that's, you know, but once again, that line is just like, I don't know if I can save everyone. And just like, to me, like the most heroic moment you ever see Spider-Man is when he's beaten down and bruised. Like, just the fact is his costume's like ripped up and his face is kind of cut up a little bit. Found themselves in this situation a lot, not just in this. I mean, but is that like in Homecoming, Far From Home, and obviously like in most iterations you'll see Spider-Man like beaten and battered and bruised, but that's always a thing of Peter always gets back up. I'm curious, like, because there was an announcement about the freshman year cartoon, which is going to fill in before Civil War of him, like, early days Spider-Manning it, before he became officially Spider-Man. So I'm curious, I'm sure we're going to touch on the Uncle Ben stuff there, but I'm curious, is this going to be a moment where they, like, dive into that because of the multiverse stuff or not? Like, will it be, like, a quick cameo from his Uncle Ben? Like, is that something we could potentially get? But, this movie looks insane. It's wild. I touched on it a little bit, but I do like that Peter and Stephen had, like, and I think that's such an interesting thing because Stephen comes from the perspective of, and we've seen this firsthand from What If, when he tries to do, like, you know, kind of like when you kind of give into your selfish desires of, like, once again, it's just the naivety of, like, you know, Peter's a teenager of like, no, I want it all. You know, I might seem, you know, naive and childish for wanting it, but that's what I'm going to want. That's what I want, and I'm going to try and get it. But the fact is that, like, Steven knows firsthand of just kind of, you know, once again, not this version of Steven, but that struggle of, you know, we've seen it in What If of, like, him giving in, like, willing to sacrifice everything for what he wanted, and what did it cost him? His entire universe got destroyed because of it. So it's an interesting timing to have that after the events of What If, and that's the thing, too, of, like, wonder will there be any correlation there. This isn't the same Steven, this is a different Steven, but still. I really do like the notion of the thought of, like, Peter, Ned, and MJ, like, Scooby-Dooing it up, as he says, like, oh, Scooby-Doo this crap. So, I'm just so pumped for this movie, and I think it's going to be so exciting just to see how this chapter in Spider-Man's story plays out and what this means in the grand scheme for the multiverse of, like, there's definitely going to be residuals coming over, because this is the last movie before Multiverse of Madness, I believe. So this is going to be kind of leading the way a little bit. So even if they resolve everything, the question is like, what's going to happen at the end of it? You know, what does it mean for Peter's life, for the people in his life? Like, is it going to be a thing of he's going to have to reset it so no one knows? Is he going to even be in this reality, this dimension anymore? What, you know, what was it like, you know, what's going to be the stinger at the end of it all of like, oh, this little thing is at the end and it sets up multiverse into the Multiverse of Madness. I'm really excited. Obviously, these are just some of the things going through my head. I'd love to get to know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you think? Does this like raise the scale for you? Or are you about the same? Just let me know your thoughts in general. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.